Okay, you are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And let me send you the address that people need to, hold on one second. Okay, you are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And let me send you the address that people need to, hold on one second. Okay, you are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And let me send you the address that people need to, hold on one second. Okay, you are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And let me send you the address that people need to, hold on one second. Okay, you are live on YouTube.
Hey, Joe, is this a rendition of like Row, Row Your Boat where we just goes on forever, by the way?
I have no idea.
Hey, Joe, is this a rendition of like Row, Row Your Boat? Just goes on forever. We got a new piece of it.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you sing in the chorus.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, I like it.
we need a few more parts.
You know
I'll
what?
go hop on the piano.
You know, it's not working very well. I don't know why it's acting this way. So,
Joe, is this a rendition of like Row, Row Your Boat? Goes on forever. Got a new piece of it.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you sing in the chorus.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, I like it.
we need a few more parts.
You know what?
I'll go hop on the piano.
You know, it's not working very well. I don't know why it's acting this way. So, is it making that noise?
Yeah. Forever. Got a new piece of it.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you sing in the chorus. Yeah, I like it. I'll go hop on the piano.
All right, we'll let that go ahead and stream and see if there's any difficulties. If anybody wants to watch it, Tom, I did put the address in the chat box for you.
Yep. I will announce it.
Okay, and I will give the hosting back over to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Well, I should start recording this, or it is recorded. Oh, here we go. Okay, at 7:02, I will open tonight's Lunenburg Select Board meeting of Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. In accordance with the requirement of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and it usually is broadcast over a public access channel, but the public access channel with Comcast is having technical difficulties. We are looking to stream this over YouTube. For those who are interested, it is youtube.com/c/Lunenburg access/live. So I will say that one more time.
Here.
Mr. Marino.
Here.
Ms. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Jeffries, who I need to unmute. There you go. Mr. Jeffries.
Present.
Okay, and I am here. Madam Town Manager.
Here.
Okay. So I will hand it off to our flag holder and Pledge of Allegiance leader for the Pledge of Allegiance. Take it away, Ms. Adams.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any public comment from the board this evening? Seeing none. I see somebody's joining. Okay. Any public comment from the public this evening? Okay. We have Ms. Whalen. Ms. Whalen, you are on.
Okay. Can I be heard and seen?
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to bring to the attention of the select board, once again, the stormwater flooding issues on Flathill Road. I believe that the town manager passed on some photos of the flooding and damage that's occurred over the years on my property. I'd like to outline some of the actions that both the town and the DPW have done since it was called to their attention initially in 2002. At that time in 2002, there was an on-site meeting by the chairperson of the planning board and the director of the DPW and the residents of 305 and 377 Flathill Road. And at that time, there was water that was just cascading or what's the word I want? It was just flowing in sheets from the development onto the road. And everyone agreed that there was a problem. However, it continued to be a problem, and the planning board actually signed off on the final special permit in 2006 without any resolution. And I think that they missed an opportunity to hold the developer accountable for the water. So that's one misstep. And then between the years of 2006 and 2018, I had numerous conversations with the Department of Public Works. And during that time frame, they put in like 4 different fixes to the problem, trying to address it. They dug across the street from 305 Flathill Road. They dug and backfilled with stone and connected. They uncovered while they were digging a culvert that crossed the road that had been, from what I understand, not used since the 1960s. And they brought it across the street, and they installed a paved apron and a catch basin. But it had no outlet. So the water was actually coming up from the top of the catch basin and flooding the driveway and fields at 305 Flathill. When that occurred, DPW came back and they installed a pipe, an outlet pipe, I guess it's called, from that catch basin halfway down the field, the south field of 305 Flathill. And they built like a stone head for it. And actually there are 2 different culverts and pipes that drain into that one spot. There are 2 12-inch pipes. And when the water comes out of that, it comes out with velocity and volume. And as you can see from the pictures, there's quite a bit. I had presented this situation, its history, in a lot more detail and stuff in 2018 to the board. And at that time, it was decided that the first step would be to see if they could get the village at Flathill to maintain and clean the detention basins that are there, which was fine, except the only noticeable difference that I could observe was that they just mowed around the edge, a 3-foot border around the edge. I could never find out if they actually did any cleaning. Nobody could actually tell me about that. There was also a lot of discussion by the director of the DPW about where the water comes from. The water is in the road. I'm not sure if it's relevant where it comes from, or if it comes from private property or what. It's now in the road, and the DPW has altered the flow of the water over the years, which is causing the situation to become worse on my property. I think just the fact that they did these changes, I don't think it was their intention to make it worse. I think they had good intentions, but the fact of the matter is, even though I contacted, emailed, and phoned about this situation, it has been ignored over the years. There's been no resolution. I just think it's time for the town to correct these mistakes and missteps. it's only going to get worse as time goes on. I already have more water coming in my property now than I did 3 or 4 years ago. It's coming in closer to my house, and it's assaulted water, so it just destroys the lawn. It destroys a lot of different things. I don't know if you want me to give any more detail as to the pictures, or I don't know if they're self-explanatory, but I don't know if you need some help understanding where they're taking from, or where they're where the picture was taken from, and I kind of put them in order from north to south.
I don't need any further explanation, and I will say, I don't usually comment on public comment, but I will say that I've heard you before the Board of Selectmen before in various accounts of this, and I agree with your characterization that it really has gone on. We really need to come up with a solution for many reasons, not only the flooding on your property, but the liability to the town when that runoff goes to across the street and freezes, as some of those pictures show. It's a safety liability. It's a lot of things. So I think, Madam Town Manager, we need to try to put together a meeting between whatever the relevant bodies. Obviously, I'd like the board to be involved, and I'd like the DPW obviously needs to be involved, and whoever else needs to be involved, whether it's the Stormwater Task Force or conservation or whoever, but we need to come up with what we think is a solution going forward to this, because it really has gone on for many, many, many years. Mr. Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had one question of clarification. Just the photos you sent, it appeared the issues happen primarily during the winter months when the ground's frozen and the water can't infiltrate inland. Is that correct?
That's when the icing occurs. Yes, that's when it's the most dramatic. Even like in the spring and fall, if there's a lot of rain, it will be wide swaths of water coming down at a very high velocity.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Whalen, for explaining exactly kind of what you're experiencing and what's going on. My question today is also very brief. Would you mind just explaining and again when this problem initially started and what you believe the initial causation was, just so that I'm clear on that piece.
And I would ask, not with all due respect, also to do it in a brief way, because we don't want to go too, it's a public comment time, and I don't want to go too deeply into it. So, but please, Ms. Whalen.
Well, it was first noticed around 2002, and the water was coming from the village of Flathill. Prior to their development, there weren't these problems.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Town Manager.
I just wanted to add that I have had a conversation with the DPW director, so he has engaged an engineer to go out in the field and look at the issue. So we'll be prepared to discuss this in the beginning of November.
Excellent, thank you. And please make sure that when we are putting these together to include Ms. Whalen and any other property owners that may be affected by this problem, so they are aware of what we are doing.
Yes.
Anything else, Ms. Whalen?
No, that's it. I want to thank you very much for listening to me and for taking this problem seriously.
I certainly do. I think I speak on behalf of the board that we all do, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment from the public? No. Okay. Announcements. Any announcements, Madam Manager?
Yes, just the same one I've repeated the last couple of times, couple of meetings, that Saturday, October 24th is the last day to register to vote. The town clerk's office will be open 2 to 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. that day. And the town hall will also be open for early voting that day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I would say two things as announcements. One, obviously related to that announcement from the town manager, that obviously early voting has started in Lunenburg. You can check out the webpage. I don't proclaim to remember or memorize the dates of when it is open and where, but please, if first of all, I urge everybody to vote. And if you are going to vote early, please note when the times are. I want to thank the town clerk and her staff and all the election volunteers. The reports I have going forward is that it's a very well thought out and safe environment in which to vote, given the times we live in. So thanks to the town clerk and her staff and her volunteers. Second announcement, I just want to thank everybody who was involved in the Lobsters for Lunenburg on Saturday. It was a rousing success. It was raised, I don't know the exact number, but they had over 150 meals or lobster dinners that they sold, lots of raffles to raise money for the police and fire associations. So I'm sure that group will be here when they have a final number to tell everybody what it was, but it was a really big success. And the weather communicated not communicated. It really worked with us very well. It was a very iffy morning, and it really turned out to be cooperated was the word I was looking for. The weather cooperated really well. It was a beautiful, beautiful day when they did this. So they got to speak to everybody as they were driving by, and everybody practiced social distancing and had their masks. So thank you for that. Two appointments, no appointments like meeting appointments, but we have to the next issue, appointments and reappointments. So two of them for the town manager. So I will hand it over to you for these announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first appointment, I'm asking you to ratify Sheila Cragan as the administrative assistant in the Assessors Department. And Sheila has worked with the town for a number of years. She was the principal clerk, and so she stepped into this role when Louise Paquette retired in the spring, and she's done a phenomenal job. And our principal assessor, who was new this summer, commented on she hasn't had a better assistant in her career as well. So very pleased to offer this recommendation to the board.
Any questions about this appointment from anybody on the board? If not, I would entertain a motion regarding the ratification of the appointment of Sheila Cragan to Administrative Assessing Assistant.
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Adams.
Oh, the chief can make the motion.
Okay, he just did. Do you second it?
Oh, sure. Second.
Any further discussion? So the motion is the confirmation or the ratification of the town manager's appointment. Roll call vote. Ms. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Marino.
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries.
Aye.
And an aye from myself. Number 2 appointment.
Very pleased about this appointment. I wish it were in a different setting because this is such a monumental occasion for the town, but I would like to read a letter to the board. I'm extremely pleased to make the recommendation to the select board regarding the board to ratify my appointment of interim police chief Thomas Gamble to the permanent position of the chief of police in Lunenburg. Interim police chief Thomas Gamble has been a law enforcement officer for close to 30 years. Tom attended Curry College, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice Administration. He began his career in law enforcement with the Honolulu Police Department, then moving closer to home to taking a position with the Pepperell Police Department. Tom was later hired by the Lunenburg Police Department, where he has served for 20 years, 16 years as a sergeant, 2 years as a lieutenant, and the last 2.5 months as the interim police chief. During the last couple of months, Tom has seamlessly stepped into the position of interim chief, and this opportunity has provided proof of his abilities to become the next chief of police. I would like to discuss the process that led to the decision to offer interim police chief Thomas Gamble the permanent position. Due to former Chief Marino's retirement at the end of July 2020, the Assistant Town Manager, HR Director advertised the position at the beginning of July on the town website, MMA, the local newspaper, and Indeed.com. And we received a total of 45 applications. The Assistant Town Manager pre-screened these applications to eliminate any applicants that did not meet the advertised minimum qualifications, including a bachelor's in criminal justice, a minimum of 10 years experience in police work with 5 of those years in a supervisory command role, certification as a full-time mass police officer, and having a Class A license to carry firearms. For the next step in the process, I asked a panel to review the remaining applications with myself and participate in the interview process. This panel included Fire Chief Pat Sullivan, Fitchburg Police Chief Ernest Martineau, Air Police Chief and Lunenburg resident Bill Murray, and the Assistant Town Manager Julie Beliveau. The panel reviewed the remaining pool of applicants, which were then ranked by the panelists according to a presentation of their application materials, the level of their education, the skills that were identified in their application, their related police work history, their references, and the overall completeness of their application. Based on these results, we agreed on interviewing 7 of the 12 candidates. Prior to the interview, each candidate was asked to provide a 2-page written response to a question that addressed a hypothetical response about the positive and negative impact of the use of body cameras on the citizens of Lunenburg and how to respond to concerns from the administration and privacy concerns of the public. The in-person interviews were held on October 5th and October 6th, and all candidates were asked the same questions by the panelists, and each panelist ranked the response to each question on a scale of 1 to 5. Although we had qualified applicants, the panelists all agreed unanimously that interim Chief Gamble stood out from the rest and was the best person for the position. Tom's responses to the questions highlighted his intimate knowledge about the town, our citizens, his staff, and how his years under former Chief Marino had prepared him for this role. He spoke about collaboration, keeping the tradition of an open dialogue with the community through a forum like Coffee with the Chief, spoke of recruiting candidates from the STEP internship program that has been successful, the positive impact of community events that the police attend, and coaching up to help the officers become better prepared leaders in the department. Another comment Tom made in his final closing remarks was that no matter what the decision was, he planned on remaining with the department as he recognized that the town has invested in him and he was invested in remaining in Lunenburg until the end of his career. In my opinion, this comment demonstrated his level of commitment to not only his profession, but in particular to the Lunenburg Police Department, and was a testament to his character. I've discussed Tom's background, but it's also important to highlight other attributes, such as his professional approach that is also welcoming, his love of football, and the St. Bernard's High School football team, where he is the assistant varsity football coach and the defensive coordinator, and how highly he speaks of his wife and his grown children. To have an internal candidate that has worked with the town for the last 20 years and under former Chief Marino's leadership, we are fortunate to have an internal candidate that can continue the positive influence on the department and within the community. And I respectfully ask that you ratify this appointment tonight.
I would open it up to the board for questions, comments.
Okay.
Mr. Jeffries.
So, one of my concerns going into any time we're hiring, a role as critical as a chief of police, is ensuring that, we're not rubber stamping the process, and that we are getting, certainly we all can attest to Chief Gamble's qualifications within the police department, but ensuring that we have a process that's fair, that's looking for the best qualified applicants. Behind the scenes, I've had many conversations with the town manager about this process, and I am fully satisfied and convinced that the panel took their responsibility seriously, that they were appropriate and deliberate, and that they selected the best candidate out of all applicants for this role. And so it certainly brings me great pleasure to know that we're moving in the direction of having a acting Chief Gamble assigned into this permanent role. So certainly I extend a congratulations to you. And I also have to extend a huge congratulations to Chief Marino, former Chief Marino, for his leadership, for his guidance, for helping create and maintain a police department that is respected within the community, that is certainly admired, for which Lieutenant Gamble can continue the great charge. So thank you both.
Thank you.
My virtual hand is not accessible, so I'm going to use a real one tonight.
Okay, I will call on you. Mr. Marino had his hand up, so I'll call on you next, Katie.
Mr. Chairman, Katie can go ahead. She was ahead of me. She just couldn't get her hand raised.
Yeah, my screen is a little off tonight. I just wanted to also say congratulations. And, I grew up in Lunenburg, and then I'm one of those, that came back. And I feel like, and I said this when the former chief retired, but there's a nice environment in Lunenburg. And I feel like with our police department, when you see a vehicle go by, your instinct is to wave at it, or at least it is for me. And so I look forward to, everything continuing to be positive in our town. I think, there's a lot going on in the world around us, and the best place we can impact is our home. And I feel good about Lunenburg. And also, Chair Alonso, I feel like we should unmute our new chief.
I have not forgotten that. I don't want to interrupt everybody praising him first.
All right. Well, congratulations, and thank you, Heather, for explaining the process. I think it's nice to hear, that there, 45 applicants, and so it's a testament to, really achieving the role of chief. And so thank you for the background too, Heather.
Mr. Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really happy about the decision. Obviously, I worked really hard to train our staff to take to move into supervisory roles and management roles. I don't know if any of the members of the board ever had a chance to read my succession letter, but I essentially outlined what I've done in the past several years to get to this point. Tom was a no-brainer. He's got what it takes. He's got integrity. That's what it takes. I know going forward that he's going to continue to be a compassionate chief, and so. I'm very happy about the appointment. I honestly, I don't know who was more worried about it, him or I, who lost more sleep about this appointment, him or I. But thank you so much for making this. This is an important decision. I would say though that as a member of the Board of Selectmen now, I don't feel right about voting. In this case, I think I'm going to abstain from voting, just so that nobody ever questions this appointment, where I was the former chief.
I have a funny feeling it's not going to be a 3-2 vote, so I think you're safe in voting. But if you want to abstain, that's certainly your choice.
I think it's the right, I just believe it's the right thing to do, not to give the perception that, you know,
I understand.
propriety. So I wish Tom obviously the best, and you know, he knows I'm always going to be in the background if he needs me, for whatever good I'll be worth in the next couple of years. But again, thank you. I'm very happy.
I would like to say, first of all, I think it's a great pleasure. If I could equate an organization by how it hires and how people stay with that organization, and how you're able, or we're able to hire from within that for increasingly important roles throughout the ranks, and those leaders come from within the ranks, is an incredible tribute to the department that was put together. That we could, you know, really train people and prepare people from being a police officer through sergeant, through lieutenant, and then to chief, and to do that with the sergeants that we've hired as well, and we've promoted, to all come from the ranks, is really a tribute to a solid department that has an incredible hiring practice from the very beginning. So I want to thank the prior chief, and actually the chief before him, for really promoting that kind of environment. And needless to say, soon to be Chief Gamble, you have big shoes to fill. I'm sure you know that. And I know that your term here already and your tenure here in Lunenburg has prepared you for that. So I have absolutely no worries that you'll be able to fill that role in the best possible way, not to mimic other chiefs, but to make the role your own, and to, you know, model it with the same levels of integrity that prior Chief Marino just outlined was his signature, and just in a different way with your own viewpoints and perspectives. So I couldn't be happier also with the appointment. I think we've all sufficiently tried to make you blush or feel uncomfortable in the praise that you're given.
Very much so.
I don't know if Mr. Dwyer would like to say anything. Otherwise, we can go to Mr. Gavin.
Sure, just briefly, I think everyone, I just want to echo everyone's comments. First, Heather, I think you did a fantastic job of creating a robust process that is beyond reproach. And so I think that's fantastic. Mr. Marino, I think the culture you helped instill in the department over the years, it really shines through, and I'm glad that I echo Tom's remarks that the fact that they can promote from within sends a great message, not only the community, but also the department as well. So that's it, and I look forward to supporting this or ratifying this appointment.
So Mr. Chief Gamble, soon to be Chief Gamble, it seems, would you like to speak before or after we officially ratify your appointment?
If you don't mind, I'd like to speak now, if you don't. I
Sure.
appreciate that.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the board for all the kind words and the support. I'm truly honored and humbled to be selected as the next chief of police for the town of Lunenburg. We have an outstanding police department and dedicated professionals who I'm very proud to serve with, and thankful for their continued support. I would have to echo the board about the being able to promote from within and to guide our officers and our command staff into a direction of leadership. One of the things I said during my interview process was I talked about being a football coach, and I talked about the ability to coach and have that sense to coach people up and put them in positions of leadership. And I think with the mentorship that was brought to me from Chief Marino has really helped me and guided me in that direction. And I can assure you that's a direction I want to continue in, and to see these officers flourish and see and how proud the town will be of our professionals that we employ here in town. I want to thank our town manager for her continued confidence in me. I look forward to working with her in the future. And I would also like to thank Chief Marino again. His mentorship and friendship and support has been rock solid for me. and it has really guided me into where I am today. I want to thank my family, my brother and his family, my sister, my mother and father, who were always there for me, who gave me the foundation for the person I am today. And family is important to me, and I think I reiterated that quite a bit during my interview. But I also would like to thank my children, Thomas, Keiko, and Alyssa. They sacrificed and supported me through a 29-year career so far, and they gave up a lot when their father was working. And being understanding to that really puts a lot of things in perspective. I especially want to thank my wife, Ellen. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting before you right now and being in this position, and I can't thank her enough. To the board, I can assure you and the citizens of this community that you will get the best that I can offer every day. I love this community, I love this department, and to me, it's an honor, and I'm humbled to be in this position. And again, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity that's been given to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before we take the vote, I want to just echo one thing. I think Ms. Adams touched on it, and I don't think, especially with the climate around the country, it probably doesn't get said enough. She's absolutely right, at least in my viewpoint, that when I pass the police on details, when I pass them in a store, when I see them at band concerts, when we had band concerts or any event, it's a welcoming thing. You want to wave, and it's important, and it has happened over the course that I've lived here in town. Ever since I moved here in 1998, the police has been a very obvious and vibrant part of the community, and it represents the community, and the trust that the community has in them is really something I think should be modeled across the country. And I know in some places in this country right now, it's not true, but I can say that not only from myself and my friends and family, but I see it in the community at large, that I think the larger part of the community has that sense of trust that is so vital to the work that you do. So I know that it's in good hands, and I really appreciate you and the words you offered there. I know you'll do your best, and I know it'll be an outstanding job.
Thank you.
So with that, I will entertain a motion on the ratification of the appointment of Acting Chief Thomas Gamble to just Chief Thomas Gamble. You don't have to act anymore, presumably.
Yeah, that was a long title. Okay, I can make a motion that we ratify the town manager's appointment of Police Chief Thomas Gamble.
Second. Okay. All those in favor, Mr. Marino,
I will abstain.
Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries.
Very happy to vote yes.
Yes, and I echo his enthusiasm. Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you
And
very much. Thank you, everybody.
I don't know if anybody on this call, before you leave,
Okay.
would like to say anything, because I know there's some other people, maybe some of your colleagues on this call. I want to offer to them if they want to say anything. Just raise your hand through your Zoom app.
And while you wait for raised hands, I'll have to say that's one of the saddest things about Zoom was when you're sitting up looking out and nobody who was watching the TV version could see it. But on good nights, there'd be a really nice crowd come in on, contentious topics. There'd be a full room. And so you could sort of get a sense for things. And these appointments are some of my favorite nights because so many people would show up out of respect, and they wouldn't be on camera, they wouldn't be seen, but you could feel all of the pride and appreciation. So I'm sure that's out there, but we just don't all get to feel it.
I agree.
Yeah, there's usually a wall of blue that lines the back wall. They like to make a good
Absolutely.
showing and a quick exit for some reason.
But I think some of them are working,
Because we have to
I
get
know,
back to
they
work.
are.
Yeah,
Well, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
good luck. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Old business, vote on special town meeting warrant and the remainder of recommendations on the articles. So Madam Town Manager, if you would walk us through the remainder of ones that we haven't voted on that we possibly.
Yes. So in your Google Drive, there's a draft special town meeting booklet dated 10/20. And starting, so Article 1, the board needs to make a recommendation on. Also in your drive is a chart of the changes.
Would you like to share these? Would you like me to make you host so you can share these?
I don't think I have them readily.
Oh, okay. No, if you don't have them, that's fine.
I have them on the iPad, which isn't on what I'm working off of.
Do you have them to share, Tom, by any chance? Because even myself, sometimes I have trouble with my iPad here, and then people at home could see it too.
Yeah, well, I have them on my iPad. I could try to send them over. The problem with mine is that, as people know, sometimes my internet freezes. So I always worry about it not being helpful if it freezes in the middle.
I have them.
Okay, would you like to share them?
No, I'm just kidding.
That's why you're the prior chief, by the way. All right, I'm going to make you host, Jim.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, make sure there's no other windows.
So what do? You just
at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's going to be a share screen.
Yeah.
And just share your Adobe Acrobat Reader there.
All righty. Let's see. There it is. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Bravo.
So where would you like to start, Heather?
I think there's a document in the Google Drive with the budget article adjustments that she's referring to.
If he scrolls down on that one, it's further down.
No, there's a separate document titled Chart of Changes.
Okay.
Right. Chart of changes. There you go.
Got
right
it.
there.
That one?
Yes, that
Yep.
one. So the top section are all the adjustments to under Article 1 to the fiscal 21 budget for the line items that will be voted on. I don't know if you can enlarge that.
Yeah, I think so. How's that?
That's much, yeah, that's
Wow.
perfect. So the group health insurance was one of the line items that was being reduced, and that was due to the premium reduction that the health trust fund did for the July premium. That's $57,871. That will be reappropriated to other line items. The technology, it says technology director, but it's actually the technology department. The $11,745 is for the remainder of the fiscal year after the CARES Act money is no longer eligible for use for that position for the remote meeting coordinator. The police department, $30,161 is for January until June 30th for an additional police officer. The $38,928 for the fire department is for January until June 30th for the additional firefighter. The general health expense, that is for additional hours for the Board of Health administrative assistant for January until June 30th. The general highway maintenance for $27,000, that is for the ADA public rights of way funds that were deferred at the annual town meeting. And the facilities and grounds, that the $33,000 is for the additional cleaning and PPE supplies for January until June, because we will no longer be able to use CARES Act funding for those expenses. So it totals $86,779. The other, there are other adjustments in the budget. That's just doesn't affect the, those line items don't have to be voted on, but those adjustments will be made on the recap. And
how are we appropriating that surplus of 2 cents? Are we appropriating that somewhere?
Left 2 cents on the table.
It's funny.
Oh, are these numbers going to be for the most, I mean, do you anticipate them changing in the next 2 or 3
No.
weeks? Okay.
I do not anticipate them changing.
Does anybody have any questions on these numbers to ask the town manager? Okay, then I would, Jim, if you can go back to the article, we can vote on this article, I guess, because we know the numbers now.
Is it the draft booklet? Is that the one?
Booklet, yep, that, oh, yes, that one right there, yep,
This here.
yep.
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion on Article 1, the FY 2020 budget adjustment article as just presented in that spreadsheet by the town manager.
I move to approve that.
Second.
Recommend approval?
I'm sorry, was that clarify? Was that a amendment to recommend approval, Mr. Marino?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay. Whoa, okay, getting crazy with the Zoom there. Thank you. The regular stabilization fund, what do we have for that? Madam Town Manager. Article 4.
I do not have that the board took a vote on Article 2 for the capital plan.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at cost, but I'm thinking TBD. I'm sorry. Yes, so let's go to capital plan. So you'll hear about it in my committee report, but the capital planning committee met right before this meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval for the amended capital plan. And is that in here in this booklet?
The plan itself, no, the list of projects.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. All right. So then it's not in the book, but these are all the items that were deferred at the annual town meeting, with the exception of the track list, which is getting purchased through Chapter 90 money.
Correct. And the 494, 333 is also going to be offset by some unexpended capital that will be reappropriated of $6,825.61. One change in the capital plan, I think we discussed, but to reiterate, was the cruiser. So the original capital plan for fiscal 21 included a replacement of the K9 cruiser, but that is a Tahoe, which does not come in a hybrid model. So I spoke with now Chief Gamble about reviewing the capital plan and if there was a possibility of swapping out so we could buy a hybrid cruiser, because we received the Green Communities Fund grant this year where we received $5,000 towards the purchase of each of 2 cruisers, so $10,000 total. So the plan reflects that. It swaps out the K9 cruiser with a cruiser that was up for replacement in fiscal 22.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Katie's got her hand up.
Ms. Adams.
Yes, so there's not a list in the Google Drives that itemizes the capital items. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes,
but I can.
actually, there's a document titled Special Town Meeting Articles Slides. So
They're making you work for it, Jim.
yeah.
Slides right there. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And if you go to slide, I can't see what slide number
Right
it
here.
is.
Next one.
This one?
No,
That's
going.
pre-COVID. No, keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
And the next one it should be. Here we go. These are the items.
Can everybody see it?
Yep.
It doesn't hurt to enlarge for the people watching on YouTube.
Wish. Oops. Kind of too big for us, though.
You're a very aggressive Zoomer.
Yeah, well,
Right, whoa, just one click.
I did. All right, there we
There we
go.
go.
How's
That's
that?
perfect, perfect.
Any questions on any of the projects?
My only question would be in the sentiment of that was on people's mind in the spring in terms of pending economic uncertainties for the coming years. Are there any items here that should be further delayed, like library carpet?
Not in.
Know the items like enough to know, but I just want to anticipate if that conversation's going to come up, like, you know, it certainly did at the last town meeting.
I will say, before the town manager answers, I would say that I asked the question of the town manager at the capital planning committee meeting before this. If funding these items to these amounts puts us in any jeopardy because of the uncertainty that you referred to, and her answer was no, she would not recommend anything that would put us in jeopardy. So
Correct.
I don't know if that answers your question, and I just wanted to give that as at least a backdrop, and I'll turn it over to the town manager if she has anything to add.
We don't. I think we have funds available for appropriation, and this is part of that recommendation. Part of the recommendation is also to put money in reserves, a significant amount, so that I think further contributes to being prepared for any future economic downturn potential.
Any other questions on this? And if somebody wants to make a motion regarding approval or disapproval or deferral on this article,
I'll make a motion to approve it.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me. So that's recommended approval. Okay, Mr. Marino, we're back to the other pamphlet.
All right, that's the booklet.
Yep, that's correct. Okay, which one do we have next?
We have the Stabilization Fund as the next Article 4. Before we discuss this, because it kind of ties into another article as far as the recommendation for this. At the last meeting, I was waiting on final updated figures for the streetlights article. And I have corresponded and spoke with Dave Blatt of the Green Communities Task Force. And the 91,000 that was to purchase the streetlights, and that is their recommendation that was the amount at the annual town meeting. He is maintaining that as a figure for a purchase. So, and how this ties to the recommendation for the regular stabilization is that in order to leave sufficient funds, if that article were to pass, the balance is my recommendation to go into the regular stabilization account. So if that article were to be funded for 91,000, my recommendation would be $212,252 go into the regular stabilization account. If it does not pass, I would recommend to increase that by the 91,000.
So can we reorder that? This hasn't been printed, right?
It has not. So tonight you vote on your recommendations and finalize.
Well, I think we want to move that article in front of the stabilization since it obviously affects it.
Yes, that would be.
So either move the streetlight article up or move that one down. It doesn't matter to me which way, but they have to occur in the opposite order they appear now.
I would recommend placing it between the payment of prior year expenses and the regular stabilization fund article.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that. So let's just do that. So let's go to that one then. Let's go to that article. And so that's number 19 currently. What? No, don't pass. You passed it.
All right.
Number 19, the conversion of the streetlights. So what we asked Mr. Black to defer this from the annual town meeting and put it here and let's revisit it. One of the things that happens is that the grant money happens, the timing of the grant money, if we approve it here, we won't have to lose another year in applying for the grant money. So, I mean, I, as one member of this board, would want this to pass. I would urge it to pass because I think it's going to save us a lot of money. And now is the time to do it instead of deferring, and then we'll lose another year. And I don't know what the price will be from that 91,000. As every time we do this with Unitil, the price seems to go up. But I will open it up to the board if anybody has any feelings about doing that conversion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. I think that's a smart idea. Get it done now before we lose money.
Concur.
Anyone else?
Sure.
Ms. Adams?
Oops,
I'll reiterate some comments that I made when this has been discussed in the past. I have real reservations about, I agree with converting to LED, but I have real reservations about owning them. All of the savings or potential benefits were hypothesis based on what the contracted price would be with a outside contractor. Once we own the power poles and lights, we cannot return them to Unitil. So it's, you know, once you take the tax off the new sweater, you've got to keep it. And it might end up in the back of the closet. And so my biggest concern with taking the action of ownership over the poles and lights is I don't think there's a pathway to give them back. And all of the savings are contingent upon there being a contractor that's able to give the service and the price necessary to do the maintenance. Although Unitil may not be perfect, it's one thing that doesn't have to be coordinated by the town and town manager. I think there's a lot of things that we need to work on, like the public commenter. We have a stormwater issue on Flathill. I think we're riddled with burdens and problems as a municipality already every day trying to solve problems. I don't know why. In this one, I feel like we're taking on another opportunity to have our own municipal problems. I don't support owning the power poles, but I do support converting to something more environmental.
Just to be clear, this is not to buy the poles. We're not going to be buying the poles. It's just the light fixtures and the bulbs. So Verizon owns all the poles.
So what did I miss? Because I feel like that's what was being presented to us in the past.
The fixtures and the light bulbs themselves. So not the poles, but the light.
Oh, well, I'm saying it. Okay, then yes, but I don't support.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure because you said it twice.
Yeah, the poles are owned by Verizon, so I'm sorry. I definitely misspoke on using the word poles, but yes, the lights. It requires bucket trucks. It requires licensed service technicians. All things that we need to go out and find a contractor to do the work. I have real concerns about that because, like I said, all of the savings that were presented were hypothetical savings only if we've got a good rate from an outside vendor. And I feel like it's a little abstract. I'd rather take the option where we don't take ownership, but we do go to LED.
Okay.
But thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman, if I just like to briefly weigh in and say I fully support buying the lights and for the full appropriation of presented as option 2. Unitil is, in my opinion, one of the worst utilities in the United States, not just the Northeast. And we're anything we can do to give them a little less money and save the town money in the long run, I support.
Thank you.
And if I may make another comment, Mr. Chair?
Ms. Adams?
If she would like, I would like the town manager, when I've talked about this in the past, there is an extra responsibility put on the town to be coordinating and taking over something. And so it wasn't like waving a magic wand. And so I just didn't know if she wanted to weigh in on the fact that this does bring setting up the contract, but it brings all of the burden into some spot in town. And if it's in the DPW, whether or not it's organized to take on something else.
Yep. Thank you, Selectman Adams. I was trying to raise my hand in the process. I echo your concerns about owning the pools and the town taking the responsibility. I find it obviously attractive, the savings, because we always look for opportunities for the town to save money. So that is very attractive in my opinion. But on the other side of it, for the town to take on the responsibility of one, going out to bid to secure a contractor, then it's contract administration, that whole process it would be recommended to be a DPW type responsibility. And at this time, as you're aware, we're already short 2 staff members. We're in a transition for DPW director that's going to be retiring on October 30th, where we still have not filled his position. So this highly sensitive to that department taking on any more work. And I don't take it lightly as far as, it may sound like it's minimal responsibility, but putting together a bid package and everything that goes into that, as well as oversight of the contractor, there is a lot involved. And that is my main concern. I have the same concern that I expressed before. I've also spoken directly with the chairman, David Blatt, about this, the green community. So he is fully aware of what my concerns are as well on the town side.
Mr. Jeffries?
Yes. When we spoke about this previously, I think I echoed Selectman Adams's many of her concerns, but I was really limited to, I had concerns about personnel at DPW, and that was really my focus on my opposition at that time. I no longer have that concern. So when would the purchase be effective as of, is my question is to the town manager.
Once if it passed town meeting, we would have to start putting together a bid package to transition, removing the lights and replacing them with LED lights.
Okay.
Do you have any forecast if that were to happen? How long to more fully answer Mr. Jeffries' question? How long that would be to finalize the purchase and then do the conversion?
I do not have that answer.
But if it goes the way of the,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, if it goes the way of the storage tanks, I mean, this could be a year-long process, right? So by that point, someone would be up to speed and proficient in their role, I would imagine.
That's the best hope, yes. Yeah.
Anybody? Jim, if you could, because you're the host, can you lower those hands that I've called on? Or the people who have raised them, if you could lower them? Yeah. Otherwise, I can't know who's raising them anymore. Any other comments about this discussion? Anybody want to make a motion about this article?
Yeah, I move to recommend approval of Article 19.
Do I have a second? Mr.
Second.
Dwyer has seconded it. Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
No.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, so let's go back. So let's go back up, scroll back up, Mr. Marino, please, to Article 4. So is probably one of two choices at Article 4. It's either going to be a 300 and some odd amount or a 212 some odd amount.
Correct.
I don't know if you want to wait to make a decision, or we can make a decision regardless of which money we're putting away, that we want to put away money. I'll leave it to the pleasure of the board here. Anybody feel strongly one way or another?
No.
All right, so we'll wait for the number then. What's the next one what's the next one we didn't?
It is number, what's this? Right now, Article 7 for the Article 7 and Article 8 year meeting and executive session tonight.
Yeah, so we can't vote on them now. Okay.
So defer for both of those.
Yep. Okay.
Article 10 for the sewer reserve capacity.
So there was a question about what this referred to.
Yeah, and Heather provided that answer via email between meetings.
All right.
I'm satisfied with that.
For people who are watching, can you explain what that is, just in case?
So it's the reserve capacity. It's their, what we would call a regular stabilization account for the sewer. And it was created in fiscal 2016. And the article is asking to deposit $68,097.59 that the sewer enterprise collected in fiscal 21 in excess of their budget in the current fiscal year.
Okay, gotcha. So would anybody like to make a motion on recommendation or not recommendation on Article 10?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Recommend approval?
Yep.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me. What's next, Madam Town Manager?
Article 12 regarding the salary administration plan, adding the positions of intermittent heavy equipment operator and the principal assessor. And I'm not sure why the board didn't, I don't recall.
I was gonna say, I thought we voted on that.
Good.
We did too.
Okay.
Yeah, we voted. Does anybody disagree that we recommended approval on this? No. So I mean, if we need to, we can do it again if you
Make a
need to.
motion, we do it again, if that helps.
Okay, sure. So let's make the motion then, Ms. Adams.
Okay, I make a motion. What's the number that it is?
Article,
Listed
well,
right now is
just say
12.
the salary admin bylaw.
Okay, I recommend that we approve the salary administration article.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Jeffries.
may I ask Mr. Marino to scroll down now to the actual article since we're beyond the money stuff?
Sure.
We're at 13.
Be host tonight.
So you're a true textualist. Is that it? A new word that comes up once every 5 years or something? A textualist?
Yeah, probably in your industry, right?
No. I was talking about the Supreme Court
Oh,
nomination. All right, so what haven't we deferred that on 13? On that finance committee, we didn't make a recommendation on 13 or 14.
Article
Anybody-
13 and Article 14 have to do with 250 Howard Street. Article 13 specifically worded.
Oh, that's right. These are the two with the Howard. I'm misunderstanding them. Yes, these are the ones for the right of first refusal.
Correct.
So I think we have to defer to see. Oh, by the way, that's right. Do we have an agreement yet?
Yep, town council is working on an agreement. I've been in touch with them as well as with the buyers. I spoke with the owner of the property and coordinated our council and the owner's council getting in touch with each other. So that's being worked out right now.
So I don't know that we can vote on either of these because we're only going to really present. We're going to look to, no matter what happens, we're going to look to pass over one and tackle the other, depending on if we have this agreement or not. So
So do we have to vote to keep it deferred, or shall we just?
yeah, I would just say it's deferred. Yeah. Anybody disagree with the deferral in this case?
nope.
Okay, let's go down. All right, so this is the TIF agreement. Well, of course, that's our next thing on our agenda.
No, and obviously there hasn't been an agreement reached between
Yeah.
the town and
So I would say that's a deferred as well because we don't have all the final pieces.
correct. Is there gonna be, are you taking votes on these deferred articles?
No, I think unless somebody disagrees, we didn't take any vote, and no vote is a deferral. So does anybody disagree we're deferring?
Nope.
Nope.
No. Okay, so that's deferred. Deferred is not really a recommendation, so defer is just not voting.
And the
Then we voted on 16, we voted on 17 and 18, 19. We just voted on. And then the stormwater. And I have not had a chance, very honestly, to read through every detail of this, so.
Mr.
You gotta
Chair,
have
if I
a
may.
few minutes.
Ms. Adams,
I would check in with Todd in case I missed a meeting. The last meeting I watched, and it may have been the last meeting, I don't believe that the planning board has recommended this yet. They were putting it on hold for their own discussion per recommendations from somebody from the state who was recommending it wait till the spring because all the state regulations haven't been completely ironed out. And so I'm not sure the planning board has voted to support this yet. And so then I would, unless, like I said, if Todd has any further information, if I missed something along the way, but I would keep it at deferred under those lines.
does anybody disagree with keeping it at deferral?
I don't.
I don't either. So I think we leave that as deferred as well. Okay,
thank you.
All right.
So the articles will be reordered, moving the streetlights article to as article number 4, and all the wording will remain the same.
excellent.
And I do have another question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Ms. Adams?
I do have I'm on a different Google Doc here and I'm trying to scroll through this, but I'm not the host. Where it says recommend approval, does it say, sometimes it usually says like 4 to 1. I didn't pick up on whether or not that's there.
Anytime it wasn't unanimous, it was listed, yes.
It lists, okay, I do see it now. Thank you, host.
You want me to stop share?
No, you're doing a great job. There's other documents.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to the Bright Farm so you can get out of this document. And let's go to Bright Farms. The Bright Farms folder at the top.
All right, there we go.
Which one do you want to go over first, Madam Town Manager?
Let's start with the 2.5 depiction, because that was one of the items that the board wanted to.
10 year or 8 year?
The board's preference, whichever's. Yeah.
Let's go to the 10 year, to the second from the bottom. That one, yes, please.
Yeah,
Yep. So now this includes the 2.5% that we asked last week.
Correct. So that it just adjusts years 2 through 10.
Yep.
2.5%. And I did send correspondence regarding my conversations with the state on what is submitted when the TIF agreement is submitted to the state, and the exhibit that the town needs to also submit does not specifically, they call out not to include 2.5%. So this is clearly just for depiction, and these adjust.
Appreciate that. So this is the 10-year one. And you can see the number, the two numbers, the bold numbers being the most important, the TIF savings to the company and the TIF to the town, what the town would collect during those years. Any questions about this? I mean, we looked at this last week, just didn't have the 2.5. If you want to go back and do the 8-year one. So there you go. So again, the savings to the company remains the same, and we get it back on the tax rolls a little faster and we make a little more. So it seems to me that everybody's interests are served in a beneficial way this way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 8 years is the way to go. For them, I mean, looking at these dollar amounts, it's a difference for them of $6,000 on their side in terms of savings, but on our side, it's a difference of $40,000.
Yep.
$45,000.
To the positive.
Yes.
Yes. So I would say that, Madam Town Manager, this would be the lead one, the 8-year one.
Okay.
And hopefully they agree. I mean, the representative from Bright Farm seemed to be amenable to that change as long as the dollar amount stayed the same. That's what he said, at least on that meeting. Hopefully he's true to that. So
Yes. I've played phone tag with him in the last few days. So he does have the 8-year depiction without the 2.5%, as well as the latest draft of the written TIF agreement.
excellent. Cool. Anything further on this topic? Is there anything else we need to do?
If you want to review, I updated, so it's a draft number 2 for the agreement. If there's any questions about that.
Yeah, let's go back, Mr. Marino, and let's go to draft number 2. Where do you want to go? The tracked or the clean?
Tracked version probably will highlight.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's look at a tracked one. Let's look at some changes where they are. So scroll down. Okay, there's some of the, so 8, the fiscal year changed to 8.
Yes, yep, reflecting what the board's preference was. So that strike through was just deleted from that section, but moved down to a new section called the company's obligations. Because section A is the town's obligations, and it really fit better with all that, the list of obligations that the company would need to do under that, a different section. I added the discussion about hiring part-time positions for the seniors. just the language that, and I tried to put it that they'd make all reasonable efforts. This is regarding the 60 permanent positions, such as holding job fairs and advertising positions and advertising them in local paper to solicit Lunenburg residents to apply. The company shall contact the town / Eagle House Community Center to solicit applicants in order to hire Lunenburg senior citizens for any part-time jobs that are created.
Excellent.
And
Just so Mr. Marino can keep up, let us know what section you're looking at so we can make sure what we're seeing.
so section under the company's obligations,
That's where we are.
number five and on are all language that comes out of a TIF agreement that council provided that at the time of the first draft, I wasn't sure we were able to use because it's a local incentive only application and they're not requesting a state incentive. So but they are still required to submit annual reporting to the state, and there can be language in the agreement about decertification if they do not meet their obligations. So this is all language related to that.
Okay, in number 6, if you can just hold on there, Mr. Marino. In number 6, it looks like the word businesses should come after Lunenburg. Otherwise, the word businesses is way too far removed. So it should say use diligent efforts to utilize qualified Lunenburg businesses as well as qualified Worcester County and Massachusetts region-based businesses wherever reasonable. If we can just add the word businesses after Lunenburg, otherwise the word business that it refers to it is like 12 words later. And it's not clear what they're talking about.
Okay. And essentially, those were all the changes made.
Excellent. Yeah. Anybody have any questions about this document?
So, I mean, I see a substantial change from 60 full-time positions utilizing Lunenburg residents in section 3, and then adding in there in B1, then 60 new permanent full-time positions. Do we want to add anything in here that encourages them to hire residents from Lunenburg in addition to residents from the Lunenburg Senior Center, which I think is great wording, by the way?
Well, it says right there where Jim has the cursor right there, it's asking for those to be Lunenburg residents.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is what was changed was when we first talked about this, previously it was to create 60 new permanent positions utilizing Lunenburg residents, and this wording just soliciting Lunenburg residents to apply is very different. So I'm saying that we want to encourage a certain amount of employees to be residents of Lunenburg.
Wow. I don't even know, I don't know the legality of that, so I would leave town council. But I mean, if let's say not enough Lunenburg residents apply, then you're saying that they couldn't operate?
No, I guess what will achieve what I'm looking for is, you know, it will achieve what I'm looking for is such as holding job fairs in Lunenburg. I think that will achieve what I'm trying to strive for, which is for Lunenburg residents to have, you know, certainly as a business, you want to hire the most qualified person for the job, but that we want to make sure that Lunenburg residents are fully aware that they're applying, you know, that they're seeking out Lunenburg residents, and you know, soliciting Lunenburg residents is, to me, is really broad. It's a broad change for what was initially proposed. Whereas the language about the Eagle House is very specific and completely looks, you know, hits what I was hoping it would hit.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but to me, the change in the wording in the first sentence, it's still a broad sentence. That's, I mean, I think the message is clear. We want you to hire Lunenburg residents if you can. but we can't mandate it. And I think changing solicit to utilize, I mean, is no more or less enforceable than the other. That's my own personal feeling.
I think, Tom, what I'm referring to though is if you scroll up for a second, if Mr. Marino can scroll up for a second and look at what's been stricken. Just
Okay.
the previous page, if you don't mind.
Scroll up another page
Right
here.
there. Yep. So it's the former, A1, create 60 new permanent full-time jobs utilizing Lunenburg residents. So I'm saying that when we talked about this last week, that was language we had used. I understand that may need to get struck, but the replacement verbiage, I would just add in the wording, hold a job fair in Lunenburg. You know?
Okay, I'm not against that. I mean, if everybody else is fine with it.
Mr. Chair.
Madam Town Manager.
I would also add to that, and obviously we want these primarily to go to Lunenburg residents. That's the whole goal of this agreement as well. This will need to be reviewed by the state. When my conversations with the Mass Office of Business Development is they have to approve it as well, because we can't mandate language in here that does not is not achievable for them to meet, as well as does not meet the confines of the law under TIF agreements. So I would
Right, but they're gonna
as strong as
review
language as we can put in there.
Right. But if we put language in there that they don't approve of, it's just, they're gonna ask for it to be changed, that's all, right?
Yes, and I'll be
So-
submitting this to the state this week for their review, just so we get early comments now versus later.
Sure. So what is the exact wording you're looking to be putting here, Mr. Jeffries?
For that one, I was just looking for such as holding job fairs in Lunenburg. That was really it. That's really the only change.
So you just want to put in Lunenburg, job fairs in Lunenburg?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that seems
And,
fair enough.
If there is some leeway to require a certain percentage to be for Lunenburg, let's go for it. But I also don't want to tie the hands of a business and not being able to hire the best people for a job because of where they live. One question I have though, now that we're looking at this, is we look up at section 3 above, where you've crossed out the 8th fiscal year. I just want to read that sentence. The exemption percentages in the final 5 years of the agreement may, at the town's election, be modified by the town of Lunenburg's assessor to graduate the exempt amount. So the maximum exemption amount occurs in the 10th fiscal year.
Okay.
Is that language
Change
one?
that 10, yeah, to an 8. Thank you.
It is a.
You've already corrected it. I guess I'm asking about the 5. The final 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, basically it means the Board of Assessors can adjust this so that they don't get more money because of the percentages. They can't, the amount of money they're going to get as credited in the TIF is a maximum. So if the taxes go up at some point, they can't get more of a break than we've allotted them. I think that's what that means.
I understand that. I think what I'm offering as feedback is a couple of things, which is the $996 amount has now increased to 1 million and some change. So that we, that may just be a change to that dollar amount. And the second thing I'm commenting on is the wording there that says the exemption percentages in the final 5 years. With it changing to an 8-year TIF, does that wording need to also change from 5 years to a smaller increment of time? Are you following where I'm at?
Yeah. I mean, you're saying that happened at the halfway point. Should it be 4 years or something?
Yeah.
That, I mean, that's a minor point. I don't think we need to wordsmith it to that degree. As far as the dollar amount, I think the town manager said that the 2.5 illustration was for us, but when the submittal goes in, the submittal is going to go in without the 2.5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the number hasn't changed from last week. Just the illustration she put together for us with the 2.5 has changed.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Adams. Yep. Ms. Adams.
It just goes back to the previous conversation we've sort of moved past in terms of Lunenburg jobs. I think some of that can happen organically because the part we're missing if we emphasize it is we don't know if there's the citizens looking for the lettuce jobs. So we can encourage it, and yet we may not even follow through or be there as citizens for them. We don't know that piece of the puzzle. So they'll just need to hire whomever applies.
Exactly, I agree. Okay, well, let's submit it to them with these, whatever those few minor changes, and then hopefully we get them to agree in time. They know that this is, obviously we need their agreement. Otherwise, we're not voting on this if they haven't agreed to the agreement, so.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just had a couple comments.
Sure.
One, just so I understand what we just went over. So when we're saying we're gonna move it or provide the ability that in the final 5 years, they may graduate the exempt amount, so the maximum exemption amount occurs in the final year. So does that mean, for example, if we're looking at a schedule in the final 5 years, it's 70% for the first 2 years, 60, 50, and 30, we can reverse those. So your maximum exemption amount of 70% is going to occur in the final year? Is that what that says?
Well, it's that section, from what I read, is that we're giving them a total allotment of that amount, $996,600. And they can't, as soon as they reach that, that's it. Then the exemption is reduced to zero. But we could realize if, let's say, things are lower or higher, it gives the assessor the ability to change it so that they can realize the maximum amount.
In less than 8 years.
Oh,
So
understood. Okay. So do we have to, can we just reword this to put the exemption percentage of the agreement may at the town's election be modified by the town of Lunenburg assessor to graduate the exempt amount? I mean, just essentially we're saying that we can change the percentages if we want.
So eliminate.
Well, the last 5 years, they need some certainty of so many years. I think that's what Mr. Jeffrey's question was about. Maybe we need to reduce this to 4 or 3 years, because they're going to want some level of certainty that this is what they're going to get the first few years.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then my next question is on Part B, subsection 3. The date we have of June 30th, 2021, is that just the drop dead date that they demonstrate that they have secured funding for the investment in the property? Am I reading that correctly?
That date is a placeholder date. I still am waiting to hear if that's a reasonable date.
But even if the date changes, that it's not for completion of the facility, it's for securing the funding to move forward.
Certainly reads that way.
Okay.
That they need achieve an anticipated new investment. Yeah, so they need to have a committed investment at that point. I mean, I think it has to. Otherwise, what are you going to achieve? Unless they change it by a year, what are you going to change in 6 months or something?
Sure. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments about this? Okay. Let us know what happens when you discuss this with town council and with Bright Farms. Mr. Marino, one last thing, the signage, the revised sign draft policy. There we go. So this is what included the changes we talked about last week. Everybody should have received these. Are there any questions about any of these items? I'm going to treat it in its entirety here, since we've been going it over piece by piece. But to me, these reflected the changes we talked about last week. Seeing nobody's hand up. I would entertain a motion about the adoption of this process for signage on town property policy.
I'll make a motion that we adopt this policy as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Jeffries. Any further discussion?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Adams?
I think what I'd say, I said last time in terms of we may see little opportunities to improve the policy. I think just having it is a great baseline, you know, and then as if somebody comes up with something we've missed or could alter or something, you know, that can be done. But I'm happy we have it. I think it's always better to be able to point to some structure than to have it just be open-ended or abstract.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I agree. I think if we start somewhere and we can always change it, so. All right, any further discussion? Otherwise, we have a motion to adopt it and seconded. Roll call, Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Jim, I think we're set. If you want to hand over you were excellent, by the way.
Well, thank you.
So you just make me the host.
Yeah, I'm trying to start. There we go. Let's see, that's in participants, right? Well, that.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. All right, current business. So warrants. So I signed warrants last week. Accounts payable warrant in the amount of $2,404,348.39. That was a lot of the loan rollovers. That's why it's that high. Payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $578,938.48. An accounts payable in the amount of $39,245.41. And a payroll warrant in the amount of $830,109.36. Minutes for approval, the minutes of September 15th, 2020. Does anybody have anything to discuss about that? Those minutes?
I mean,
Okay, otherwise I will entertain a motion regarding the minutes of September 15th, 2020.
second.
But I was entertaining motion.
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Sorry.
Second, okay. Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
and Mr. Jeffries.
Aye.
Okay. Action items. Anybody have any action items?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just wondering about a plan for resuming meetings or some of our meetings in public. You know, I worry about accessibility in a lot of ways, and interestingly, Zoom, I feel like, enhances some accessibility because people can log in and public comment from home. That's something we never had. You had to get to town hall. So I hope we never lose the ability for people to access us this way. And I know they've worked on that technology up at town hall and everything, because if somebody is sick and they need to public comment on a topic, or if there's a disability keeping them at home, I like the accessibility, but at the same time, on the nights where we are not on public access, we're not on Facebook, we can't go live, we're freezing and lagging, I want to, you know, set some goals or talk about, you know, us being able to meet back at town hall. There's some days like last week where we're going in to sign stuff the day after a meeting, so we all end up there anyways, which I find, you know, funny to all end up going to town hall when if we started meeting there, it might bring some continuity to everything. So I didn't know what people's thoughts were. I'm comfortable with either one, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but I would be comfortable meeting in person.
I think part of the restriction right now is from the governor's own own order, and we would be, how many would be, let me try that again. How many people would we be limited to in town hall, given the current governor's order and restriction?
11 people in the big meeting room space.
So that means there's 6 of us, there'd be 5 people who could attend, and then everybody else would be forced to be remote. So that's the obstacle right now.
And what order is that under, in the sense that like crowds are allowed up to certain numbers, and where does this fall into?
So our building falls under the office space guidance.
Are there separate rules for public meetings, and can we meet someplace else? Because I know like town meetings allowed.
That's one of the exemptions in his order is town meetings, legislative, meetings, but that doesn't include public meetings. It includes the legislative body meetings.
Are any municipalities meeting in person? I know I've seen like Leominster City Council meeting, school committee and different things. Is there a sense for people meeting together again at all?
Not in the communities that I'm on a listserv with various communities across the state, and not that I'm seeing from any of those communities.
My brain has such a hard time with the inconsistencies, because we could all go meet up at Walmart, but we can't hold a public meeting. I can't make sense of it. I feel like there's a lot of people using words like Zoom fatigue and things. And so I feel like there comes a point where in a safe and small way, if we can take steps towards having pieces of the puzzle put back together, I think that would be good. I don't know how everybody else feels, because like I said, I can go either way. There's advantages to being home at night and not needing babysitters or whatever, but.
I mean, I would meet in person. I think it's just, it actually doubles the logistics though. That means we have to have people there, take care of there, which means the rooms have to be cleaned. Well, maybe they're getting cleaned every night anyway. I'm not sure if those rooms are used, but then we'd have to have other people Zoom in, and then I don't even know if PAC is ready for that. I know they've been ordering equipment, but could they do a split meeting? I don't even know. We'd have to ask them.
They have completed the installation of that equipment and have tested out, but obviously we haven't had any live meetings to do it and on a regular basis. We do have, that was another piece to Chair, that the cleaning, we can only get our cleaning company there 3 days a week. That's most of the schedule allows, because they do all our buildings.
Yep.
And that's an increased frequency from what it was. So anytime that room is used by staff, there's supplies there to clean the tables and chairs.
And if the health personnel in the country are correct, I mean, we're going to see, as people get indoors, we're going to see increased cases. So we'll see. I appreciate your point, and I'm not against meeting in person. I think there's still, there's still rough water ahead here, and it's not a simple decision. And yeah, we just have to keep monitoring it.
Yeah, I just see inconsistencies, like all the kiddos being dropped off at school and in classrooms, and there's certainly groups of people getting together. And so I worry about the lack of accessibility of some people that struggle with the technology, struggle getting their phone calls through. I know I've been on that end of it with like parent-teacher conferences that I couldn't get into. I don't know if we have any ability to really understand who is feeling a lack of access to this style of government. Mm-hmm. So if we work towards being in town hall, I had my own struggle trying to turn in paperwork last week with the 10 to 2, and it was closed during the 10 to 2. And and so creating that real live access, especially for people who struggle in technology, I think we've created new hurdles and accessibility that we don't know are there yet. And so creating that real point of access where there's us and the building and somebody can go find us and say something to us we don't know who can't participate in this new format. And like I said, I've been on the negative end of not being able to get into a waiting room of an open house or parent-teacher conference issues. And I miss that feeling of going in the school and saying, hello, Mrs. So-and-so, how is my child? And we don't know. And I feel like with government and accessibility, I'm starting to worry that we've gone so technology, find ways to go back into reality, even if it's in a modified way. It's just a concern of mine.
Sure. Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, Selectman Adams is, asked what our thoughts were on this, and I just want to share that I fully support where she's coming from. I think that I ran into Selectman Adams when we were signing things, and it was honestly really nice. So Katie and I sat next to each other for the whole first year, and before meetings, we often would have conversations and small talk. But there's a difference in the bond that we all have with one another, how we interact with one another when we meet physically, and I do think that optics-wise, it is awful, in my opinion, that we have teachers and thousands of kids in school, but 5 people can't meet together in a room. So I look forward to us being able to get this resolved. I do understand that there are limitations right now, but I certainly hope that we can get this resolved sooner than later.
Thank you. Any other action file? So I'll mention one. I don't know where to put this, but I think I'm bringing this up for the edification of the board if they don't already know. That one of our members filed an open meeting law violation against the Conservation Commission for their September 23rd meeting of 2020. I found out about it through the town manager. I had wished I had found out about it as a courtesy as chair or as an email to the rest of the board that this was going on, but it is now filed. And so the Conservation Commission will be needing to reply to this. They will be meeting with town council to go over the occurrences of that meeting and subsequent meetings. And just figured the board should know that that has been filed, even though the member said at the last meeting that they weren't going to file a open meeting law violation. So just for everybody's sake. Ms. Adams.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I feel like you very subtly mentioned me several times. So yes, in my frustration of feeling that was a violation, I had said, I won't file it. I've done it before. And like I said, I won against the town as a citizen, and it can be a long process depending upon how it progresses. And sometimes it's hard to take the energy to put into that. But when I woke up the morning after the meeting Wednesday and I went to bed quite upset, it's the first thing that was on my mind. It's the first thing I worked on. I got the paperwork and I filed it. You have to file it with the municipal clerk or the town clerk, and you file it with the chair of the committee you filed against, so conservation. I wasn't sure with COVID and the office hours how to file. So I reached out and Elaine helped me, and she scanned it in and emailed it to the chair of conservation. And, I dropped a copy off at Heather's office. So I wasn't trying to make people unaware, but there's a timeline to it. And I got right to it Wednesday and had no ability to really openly communicate with everybody. To communicate with everybody behind the scenes would be quite in contrary to my complaint. I had no real way to reach out to everybody. So yeah, I think I made my point clear with my belief in using agendas, and I felt so firmly that was a important violation that should have attention drawn to it that I submitted the paperwork the following day. I taught myself, as most of us did, municipal rules and laws when I was participating as a citizen, and then when I got involved. And open meeting law to me is the basis of healthy governmental communication. And just because I feel so strongly, that's why I filed it.
I'm just going to ask this just because I'm curious. So the the general cure for an open meeting law violation is, I mean, you probably already know what the general cure for an open meeting law violation is, if
Remediation.
it is indeed a violation. So if it's deemed a violation, generally what the AG does is submits it back, the agenda item back to the board or committee, and has them rediscuss and revote it. Is that?
Mr. Chair, if I may, this topic is not on our agenda. But I would very happily read my letter that I submitted as a public comment or a board comment at the end, and it actually goes into that.
Okay. My only comment would be, I think we're gonna use resources in town, legal and other people's time, and it's not gonna have the effect that you want it to have, but
I don't think you should pressure people to not follow their instincts and their rights to pursue something legal.
okay. Committee reports. Anybody have any committee reports? I'll start. We had a capital planning committee. I think I already let everybody know what the ending of this is. We had a capital planning committee and we voted to recommend unanimously approve the articles that were deferred in the special town meeting that we saw earlier today in the spreadsheet from the town manager. So we're also starting in beginning of November. We'll be reviewing the requests for capital projects for the next fiscal year. So we'll start that process in beginning of November. Additionally, there'll be something coming before this board. It's probably going to go to the finance committee only because of the timing of the meetings. But we had a discussion about what constitutes a capital project as opposed to an operating budget expense. And it basically had to do with the durability of what we would be buying and the cost of that, or the extending of the life of something. Those are one of three criteria. So if it extended the life of something by 3 to 5 years, if it was going to buy and it was going to have a useful life of 5 years, or it cost more than $30,000. That is the changes we were looking for. Usually this goes by the finance committee just so they can review it and make a recommendation. Obviously they don't get approval. The board of selectmen get to adopt the approval of the policy change. So just to be aware that that is coming our way probably in a couple of meetings. Any other committee reports?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dwyer.
Went through the planning board meetings for September, and actually based on Mr. Jeffrey's advice, I also reached out to Adam Birdie and had a conversation with him today. The two big things coming out of those meetings, each of those meetings tackled Bright Farms, and that process is moving forward. Since the Bright Farms hearings with the planning board, they've since received the final engineered drawings for the facility, and they're currently in review by our engineering sub-consultant. So the meeting, the upcoming meeting, I think it's on the 26th, should be very productive meeting regarding that agenda item. The other thing that they've worked hard on is they're making some amendments to the A&R process. The A&R process is a process when people subdivide their lots. And one of the things they've noted is that sometimes the subdivision of lots can have unintended consequences. One of those being that, for example, if they subdivide a lot, they may inadvertently put themselves in a put their septic systems in violation because they may subdivide off their reserve area. So they're trying to make amend the process to make that the applicants more aware of the ramifications of their subdivisions. Other than that, they're still in the process of evaluating who's going to be on the TC Passios committee. No one has quite stepped up yet, so stay tuned for that. Maybe the lucky person will be nominated at the next meeting. That's all I have for planning board.
Talking about the TCP building design, has anybody stepped up for the at-large member?
No.
No.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Okay. Excuse me. Thank you. Town manager report and COVID-19 update. It's a twofer.
Okay. My COVID-19 update is short. The updated case numbers in Lunenburg as of October 16th are 84 positive cases and 1 death to date. The town manager report, announcement of existing vacancies. There is a vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 vacancy on the Cultural Council, 1 vacancy on the Historical Commission, 1 vacancy on the Parks Commission, 1 vacancy appointed by the Select Board and Town Moderator for a member at large for the TCP Building Design Committee, and 1 associate vacancy for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And interested persons can find the application form on the town website, and completed forms can be sent to the Select Board's office. That part of the last meeting where it was discussed about amending the form, the executive assistant, Elaine Peterson, is in the process of updating that form. So additional lines for the bio. And she also went through the process of going through all the committees that are listed. There are some that were on there that aren't even in existence. So she updated that and added any new ones too that have been added. And there's a signature line as well was added. Trunk or Treat, the Parks and Recreation Director has been organizing a trunk or treat event that will be a drive-by trunk or treat for Lunenburg families. There'll be 25 businesses / organizations participating as the trunks that will be set up around the middle school, high school parking lot, and they will be passing out treats. There are a number of families on the wait list for this event that have now been included in the 250 maximum participants. This event will be held on Saturday, October 31st from 10:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. An update from the last meeting where Complete Streets was discussed. At the September 22nd Select Board's meeting, World Tech Engineering presented the project design and the next steps in regards to Complete Streets construction funding that the town was awarded. World Tech Engineering discussed the process of putting the design documents together in order to put the project out to bid with a spring construction start date. A member of the public asked about the overall cost of the project and how much the engineer's cost for this project would be. As discussed during the process of putting the Complete Streets application together and prior to submitting a request for construction funding, the total estimated amount of the work to be done on Memorial Drive, the pedestrian crossing from the Ritter to the Town Hall, and the main street at Oak Ave intersection sidewalk connection is $560,000. The engineer's fee for this project, which covers the design for the whole project, the $560,000, is $45,000, which is approximately 8%. This is well below the typical 12 to 15% of projects for this size and type. The scope covers all the survey work needed, design and preparation of contract bid documents, and bid phase assistance. The grant will cover $258,460, the total cost. $22,000 of the cost will be covered by the capital project for the ADA ramp and sidewalk improvements to the sidewalk in front of the town hall that was approved at a previous town meeting. And the remainder, $324,540 will be paid out of Chapter 90 funds, as was discussed at the various meetings the board had on this topic when developing a Complete Streets construction project application. A grant received by the town clerk. The town clerk applied for and received a grant for $5,000 from the Center for Tech and Civic Life for the purpose of planning and operating a safe and secure election in 2020. These funds can be used towards ballot drop boxes, poll worker recruitment, hazard pay, training expenses, polling place rental, cleaning expenses, temporary staff, vote by mail or absentee voting equipment, and election administration equipment. Post 65 program. Our health insurance account representative and the health trust project manager under Maya, which is our insurance carrier, approached us in late September about participating in the post 65 program that would move a small subset of retirees over age 65 that are not eligible to receive free Medicare Part A, as they were hired prior to 1986 and were not required to contribute to Social Security to a Medicare plan. Therefore, this a small group of retirees did not earn the required 40 quarters to qualify for free Medicare Part A. These retirees became known as Medicare ineligibles and remained on the HMO and PPO plans with the active employees and under 65 retirees. The post-65 program was a concept that originated with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts quite a few years ago, and it was first introduced in the town of Ware as a pilot program. Maya has since rolled it out to much larger groups with some help from Social Security. Maya has transitioned over 300 retirees to date and estimates that the program is now saving these municipalities close to $10 million annually combined. Keeping this small subset of retirees in our HMO and PPO population is a contributing factor to our overall claims costs. In general, they require more medical care and prescribe more pharmaceuticals. Medical costs and prescription trends have increased dramatically over the past decade, and Maya estimates that this population incurs $2 in claims costs for every dollar of premium dollars that is paid toward their coverage by the municipal entities and the retirees themselves. Maya has worked with Blue Cross Blue Shield on claims analysis and continues to monitor the cost impact annually. On average, each individual retiree and spouse in this population will incur about $20,000 in medical and prescription costs per year, directly impacting the claims and premium increases for the town. This program allows us to shift these claims to Medicare. As part of participating in this program, the town would agree to pay the Part A premium, Part A and B penalties for these retirees, and Maya would offer a 2% discount on our active health insurance rate renewal for fiscal 22 in order to offset the initial cost of making this transition on July 1st, 2021. By moving these retirees from our active to retiree plans, it is estimated this will shift approximately $220,000 in claims annually to Medicare. The claim savings and lower Medic's premium are benefits to the town. Our payroll coordinator and health insurance consultant did a full analysis of the cost of moving these pool of retirees from active plans to Medicare plans, and this would equate to a minimum savings of approximately $52,000 in the first year. I also spoke with our actuary, Parker Elmore, who does our OPEB actuarial account, and he highly recommended moving forward with participating in this program. Participating in the Medicare buy-in program has been something he has spoken about with the town since at least 2017 and was also included in the last actuarial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. In that report, that although it will cost the town to buy into the program, this cost will be far less than the cost of the claims that the associated retirees are expected to incur. Our actuary estimated this will yield an approximately $5 to $6 million reduction in our OPEB liabilities. This change must be agreed to by the Public Employee Committee, which we have a meeting tomorrow, and if agreed to, we would need to notify Maya by the end of the week.
Do you have any sense from the public, from the Public Employee Committee, if they're amenable to this?
We had one meeting a couple weeks ago. What was presented to them, they seemed amenable to it. They had some questions about who would be affected and how that would all work. This would, any persons that would still be required because they have a spouse under 65 would not be included in this pool. So this would not harm anyone financially that way. So that will all be presented at tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you.
Fraudulent unemployment claims. A number of municipalities across the state have been receiving fraudulent unemployment claims filed in the names of current employees. And according to the Department of Unemployment Assistance, this is part of a national unemployment fraud scheme. As of October 19th, a total of 21 unemployment claims have been identified as fraudulent in Lunenburg. The payroll benefits coordinator receives notice of new claims, contacts the employee to verify if it is a valid claim or if it's fraudulent. And if it is fraudulent, notifies the employee of the process they will need to follow. And the payroll benefits coordinator also notifies the Department of Unemployment Assistance that the claim is fraudulent. And the employee has also been told to notify the police department to file a police report. To date, the town has not been charged for any of these fraudulent claims, but if we were to be charged, it would follow the standard appeal process under the Department of Unemployment Assistance. And this is a topic high on the list of a lot of municipalities, and there's being something put together right now through my MMA and the Department of Unemployment Assistance to answer a lot of questions the towns have. So more to come on that. Sale of surplus vehicles through Municipid. The Department of Public Works Administrative Assistant advertised surplus vehicles and equipment on Municipid, an online auction site, and 4 vehicles and 1 piece of equipment were sold for a total of $12,455. The DPW Administrative Assistant is proceeding to advertise 10 surplus police cruisers on Municipid, with the auction going live tomorrow. This will be a general fund receipt and will be considered surplus revenue taken in during fiscal 21. Update on the DPW director search. After receiving the DPW director's written notice on September 21st that his last day before retirement would be October 30th, the assistant town manager, HR director advertised the position that same week on the town website, the American Public Works Association, the local newspaper, and on Indeed.com, with a preference given to applicants that submitted applications by October 14th, but that the position would be open until filled. To date, we have received 7 applications, and after pre-screening the applications, we will be interviewing 4 of the candidates that met the qualifications. In other meetings, events, and other announcements, the school committee will be meeting through Zoom on Wednesday, October 21st at 6:30 p.m. The Conservation Commission has a meeting through Zoom on October 21st at 7 p.m. The TCP Building Design Committee will be meeting through Zoom on Thursday, October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. The Historical Commission will be meeting on Zoom Monday, October 26th at 6:30 p.m. The Planning Board has meeting through Zoom on Monday, October 26th at 6:30 p.m. The Sewer Commission has a meeting through Zoom on Tuesday, October 27th at 5 p.m. Town Council has office hours on Wednesday, October 28th from 1 to 5 p.m. And another reminder that the special town meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 17th at 7 p.m.
Any questions for the town manager on that report?
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
I missed something under action files I was meant to ask. So the Parks Commission and the group promoting the skateboard park and the Board of Selectmen, we've been talking about meeting. There's been emails back and forth between the chairs and members. The Parks Commission met yesterday, I believe, and they have come back that it would be their preference that they agree that we should have a tri-party meeting, the Board of Selectmen, the Parks Commission, and the skateboard proponents. They recommend that their preference would be that it be done at December 14th meeting of the Parks Commission, which is a Monday. Or if for some reason that isn't possible, they could attend the December 1st meeting of the Board of Selectmen. So I said to the chair of the Parks Commission, I would bring this up to this board to decide when you would like to have it. So think about that. we don't have to make a decision now. We can make a decision on our meeting on November 3rd. But just decide which one of those, if either is better. To me, it doesn't matter which one it is. I'm kind of, none says yes or no more than the other. So please mark that down, either December 14th at a Parks Commission meeting or December 1st at a Board of Selectmen meeting. Okay, so now we have decision time. It is 9:15. We still have 2 items on an executive session to review, and we have this workshop. So I am going to leave it up to the board. I mean, we can discuss this to some degree. I hate to keep putting it off, but I'm also going to leave it up, cognizant of people's time and the late hour. Myself not excluded, since I've been on Zoom calls for the town since 5:30. So how would the board like to see? What?
I have Zoom fatigue.
Zoom fatigue, yes. But again, I'm more than happy to discuss this, at least review it in some regard, at least what our next step would be. So if anybody wants to.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Ms. Adams.
I've been talking about the old primary site at length for about 4 years now. And, I know that it's hard to be on these meetings, but a couple of weeks ago, we went to 11:30 p.m. So I don't find 9:14 to be extraordinarily late. And I find this was our goal last year. We didn't accomplish much. We agreed to have it be our goal this year. So I'd like to toss at least 10 minutes at it.
Sure.
That'd be my preference. I think
it can be more than 10 minutes. I just wanted to leave it open to the board. That's all. So
table.
Oh, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I think what we can do with this goal is assign an action to be taken. We've, as a town, made great land purchases, Saliba, the Lane. Our town manager has had a goal of trying to deal with the environmental issues of a piece of private property in the center of town, which I think everybody's supportive of, but we're not putting those same type of efforts into this very tragic parcel. The building continues to deteriorate. It's really a safety hazard. I worry, every once in a while a vacant building ends up on the news for, some sort of tragedy or a fire breaks out in it, collapses. This is a municipal property. It should get the same attention as, say, the gas station and whatnot, in terms of trying to make the center of town a cleaner, crisper, happier place to be. We have heard in so many different ways, whether it's through complete streets or analysis and studies, we all know there's not a really good parking situation in the center of town. This goal we have, can tackle some parking. It can tackle some open space, some improved, like I've talked about before, the gazebo where we do band concerts or tree lightings and things of that nature. Now more than ever, having a place to spread out and be a little bit more safe and not with the confines of the fast roads. I think the thing on here that I am most excited about, but we have to get the ball rolling to have any product at all, is having a rendering done by a landscape architect of what potential parking and open space could be there. So I have a visual mind of this space. I have for years of how I can see it enhancing the center of town. And we put here in this goal, and we voted on it to be a goal, some very simple things, and we need to just assign action to them. That may just be simply asking the town manager things up. But I just feel like we just have a horrific piece of property on our hands there, and we can simply bring it to grass and parking and benefit the center.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think at the first action, item 1, is what we need, because we are, unlike all those other things, buying property for conservation is not difficult because there's not a lot of hurdles. But like the gas station had lots of hurdles and still has lots of hurdles. We're trying to overcome them. This one has a big hurdle because what the board wants to do and what we agreed on doing with the last board before the change in board was, I think we came to a consensus that we agreed it should be demolished and we should recommend it be demolished, and then come up with money to come up with a design plan about what should be there, which would incorporate your landscape artist drawing vision. And I agree with that. The obstacle for this that doesn't exist in other places is that there's two committees that have to, we have to deal with as far as the demolition, and that is the Historic Commission and the Architectural Preservation District Committee. And we need to meet with them and get on the same page with those groups so that they understand that, we need to get rid of that obstacle. I don't think anybody on this board, and I'll make this clear, and please, if I am not stating your individual position, please interrupt me and say that I'm not. But I think it's a member of a decision of the last board that we don't see a way that the town is going to spend money to rehab that building. The town is just not going to approve that. I see no way to the goal line for that to happen. So that means we can leave it and try to get a private entity, if we're going to save the building, a private entity to do it. But the town also has tried, we've tried and failed to put it in the Board of Selectmen's hands so that people in the business community would even consider bidding on it, because they won't transfer the rights to us because of various reasons. So I think the option we've chosen is the correct one. I'm for the demolition of that building, but we do have to meet with those other committees and commissions to let them understand, because if they put an obstacle in our way, then we have a very bad possibility of just a stalemate about who wins in that. And we don't want to make it a contentious discussion. We really want to make it a constructive discussion about what the vision for the future would be. If I have not captured somebody, please raise their hand. Mr. Jeffries.
You captured my sentiments. Yeah, I think that we have been looking at this building falling apart for 10 years, and I think we've had variations of the same conversation as well over the last several years. So I think it's important that as we go forward that we have new information in terms of our discussions. So, the actions that we have here, as you just outlined, are to meet with the next boards. So it seems that in order to make any progress on that, we already discussed this about what action items we wanted to take. And so now I think it's just the process of taking those action items. I don't know if the town's going to be in favor of spending any money on something that, really isn't making anyone's life any different right now. I mean, certainly we all agree something needs to happen here, but I don't, certainly we don't know if this is a realistic target anymore for, the spring. If we're talking about budget cuts or anything like that, I can't imagine that we're going to be, having any conversation about spending money, tearing down a building when people are losing livelihoods or potentially getting pay cuts. So, the next steps are to meet with other boards and commissions. The vision of creating a parking lot, the vision of creating a park, I think would involve a meeting between the Parks Commission, to see if that's something that they're even interested in, or any consideration that they have on the process. And I also agree that we need to talk to Historical and to Architectural Preservation District. Based on our last meeting with APDC, I think that they were fully in support of some preservation effort based on the charge of their committee. And I would imagine that Historic is going to have the same perspective. So, Mr. Chair, what do you propose in terms of how can we have this kind of conversation with the anticipation that these two critical boards are not supportive?
Well, I think we have to, in order for there to be movement, somebody's got to convince somebody that something is possible going forward. I haven't done it in many, many weeks, but I mean, for those people who know, I'm a big movie buff, and I'll hearken to the Braveheart movie when he goes to his friend and says that he's going to meet with Robert the Bruce, and they say, well, don't go there, it's a trap. And he talks to them and he says, well, you know what's going to happen if I don't go there? Nothing. That's what's gonna happen here. If we don't have a meeting with the Historical Commission and the Architectural Preservation District and convince them that I understand their position. I don't want to run counter to their, I understand what their charge is and I appreciate it. But I think sometimes you have to understand that the writing's on the wall. I think the town is not going to spend millions of dollars on a building that is not, that has severe problems. And I don't even know what the purpose of the function of the building would be at the end of any kind of restoration. So, I mean, we have to convince them of that and we have to hear their point of view. That's my answer to your question.
Do you envision that we'll be able to schedule a meeting with them within the next month or so? Within the next month?
I'll hope if we decide that we want to have that in early December, we can certainly do that.
Well, I certainly am proposing it to the rest of the board members that we.
And I would concur with that. Ms. Adams?
Okay, just a couple of comments. One, in terms of going to the APDC and involving them in a potential vision, I think I would jump to action 2. And I think what I would like to see is us to put a little bit more effort into something to show people, something to show the citizens, the legislative branch, something to show the APDC. Right now, we're stuck in that same rut of hypothesis or possibility. If we had the rendering of the parking in the open space that was there, and it showed, how you could make connectivity between the Ritter building and the Historical Society's privately owned building, and the rendering with the trees and a bandstand, safe parking, et cetera. I feel like if we took action on showing a possibility, it would be a lot easier to have discussion about it. Because I am definitely also a preservationist. I love historic buildings. And so I understand the sentiment of anybody that wants to save and preserve a building. And so if I was looking at a building, and it was demolition or what, and I think if we have something more concrete, like a rendering of what could be there, it'll help people let go of that dilapidated building, the people like myself that have nostalgia from the building. In terms of what could the building be, I love irony. And so a lot of things were just said, like who would want to dump millions of dollars into an old building with tons of problems? That's exactly what the TC Passios Building Design Committee is considering right now. Multi-million-dollar project into an old building that has a lot of flaws. If you, I'm just making this number up, but based on sort of the TAPE and different things. Let's say it's going to cost $15 to $20 million to renovate TC Passios to be a town hall. And we go to town and ask, and they say yes, or they say no. Somebody might say, I want to apply $20 million to make a town hall out of the old original high school. And that's a valid ask of the town. When you look at the goal was to bring options to the town, we could bring an option, spend $20 million to bring it up to speed to be a nondescript municipal building. I don't think that would get voted in, but it is an option. See, you can bring anything to the legislative branch to just get it behind us. So I think, I think we can bring an option. The idea that another selectman said tonight that in this economic difficult time, we can't bring something forward while simultaneously they're on a committee looking to spend millions on rehabbing another school. It's inconsistent. This is a dangerous building. It needs to either be secured or knocked down. And it's a minimal price compared to what's being discussed on the TC Passios. So if we're moving forward with a committee talking about spending millions on the TC Passios, we can spend under $1 million on solving this project, or maybe neither. But I still think it shouldn't be cast aside as something we can't talk about. And one last thing, there's history here in terms of, if the town would give it to the selectmen for other options. Well, that has happened. It was in the hands of the selectmen to sell it for many years. And through a town meeting amendment, it went back to the ownership, went back to the people. And at the time where it was in the control of the selectmen, people worked very hard to work on senior housing, and there was a developer. And so it's not as if a lot of things haven't been tried and attempted with that parcel. And so to reopen a can of worms with different groups that want to try to go down those paths, I give credit to the town and everybody involved in the paths that have been attempted, which give more weight to us just getting something done, especially something simple. It's exhausting. I mean, I'm not sure how people feel who've been in municipal spaces for say 40 years, but 4 years of advocating to see open space in a parking lot and to not have a rendering done, even though it's a goal, it's a little devastating.
Okay. I mean, again, we have obstacles here. If we don't meet with the APDC and they decide that, because they have jurisdiction over this, and according to our bylaw, not even town meeting can override them, which is why we need to get them on our side for what we want to do. So,
or somebody can make an article to get rid of the APDC. There's always a way.
Well, yeah, you could actually do that. Sure. Mr. Marino, you've been very patient.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, I guess what I was going to say pretty much what Mike said. What's it going to take to get a meeting? But secondly, what's it going to take to get this rendering done? All this, in other words, let's make a goal on the goal. We have the money to get a rendering done so that we can present it to a meeting in a timely manner. In other words, maybe by the first of the year or something, let's set a goal to do this, when we're going to do it. We have the funds to do that, or is this something we have to?
Well, that's the problem. There's no money allocated to getting this. So we'd have to ask somebody to either do it pro bono, which I guess is possible, or we'd have to find money to do it. And I don't even know how much a rendering would cost to that kind of vision. So in order to hand off to a landscape artist division, we would have to come up with criteria. This board would have to come up with criteria about what we would like them to envision.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Heather,
do we have any idea, Madam Town Manager, how much, have we employed landscape artists to do these kind of renderings in any other project?
Not that I've been involved in. I can't think of any. But I would agree with what you had just said. Was first you got to start with what type of park is this? So a rendering is, for one type of park is going to be completely different, and what's involved in another. Like if this was a Veterans Memorial Park versus just a open space type park. So I think first starting there would be, and then I can solicit quotes. I just need more information.
Okay. Mr. Jeffries.
He's muted.
I've hired 3 landscape architects in the last 2 years. It depends on the skill level that you're going for, but it's about $45,000 to meet with them, to go over a pretty decent plan, to get a rendering, and then for them to also hire them to work with whatever contractor to get it through. It's a $45,000 minimum, more than likely closer to 50, 60. If you want to get a basic rendering from someone who knows CAD pretty decently, you can do that for about $4 grand. So, I mean, it all depends on the skill level that you're looking for. When you're getting into regrading, which is what's going to be necessary there, as well as plant species, which is what the landscape architect's going to specialize in. There's a lot more that they're going to need to know, material-wise, option-wise. So, landscape architect may be a higher skill level than what we're actually looking for. I think we're more so looking for the person who works for, the local landscaping company that designs people's patios and backyards for $250,000, and that person's going to do this job, like I said, for about $4 grand. What I would advise, though, in terms of order, since we have the anticipation of meeting with these other boards and committees before we engage someone pro bono to do this kind of work, I would just think process-wise that we first meet with other boards and committees. Something that may come up from the Conservation Commission or from the APDC is some kind of preservation thing, a monument, memorial, something that may need to be factored into these plans. So if you're going to present the community with a rendering, you certainly want to do it in a way that, you know, you're not going back to whoever's giving you free labor multiple times to ask for a lot of revisions. So it's probably beneficial to have a meeting first and then try to engage them.
Okay, I mean, so this is the workshop. So let's determine actual distinct steps. So we have 2 steps that I've heard of. And that is to set up the meeting with these other committees and commissions, which directly is action 1. And then number 2 is come up with some kind of conceptual drawings of what can be done with the space, which would mean that we would possibly need money to do that unless somebody's going to do it for free. And we'd have to give some guidance about what we would like it to be. So what goals would we like to do and when? I mean, I think the board, I think we have to get over the demolition part. Is there anybody on this board who doesn't agree that the building itself should be demolished? Let the silence show that nobody disagreed. So we have to get over that hurdle, and that hurdle is talking with the APDC. And the reason I bring up the Historical Commission, unless there's an exception, Historical Commission has jurisdiction over demo delay bylaws. So APDC in their charge, because the district may supersede them anyway, and I think their charge is more long lasting. So the demo delay bylaw with the Historical Commission has a sunset, and I don't think the APDC in their bylaws has one, which is what the impasse is. So we got to come to some resolution with them in a discussion. We also need to find some money at some point, if we can, between now and annual town meeting, to try to do some kind of rendition, some kind of conceptual drawings, and put together some items. But at the very least, and I want to be clear so it's stated clearly here, it is my intent that at the annual town meeting, we have a warrant article that has significant money to do real design and real estimates on the tear down of the building and the contaminated materials removal and what we need to do as far as landscaping. We need an article on annual town meeting in 2021 that has this money associated with it. Because again, otherwise we'll be here next year and the year after that talking about this building. Does anybody object to any of those 3 items?
I don't, but can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
In terms of like a vision, well, let me ask the question, then I'll make the suggestion. Whose vision? In other words, so at some point we're gonna have to make a rendering. So who, is it our collective vision, or, in other words, I think what we need to do, I hope this doesn't sound silly, and I hope I don't have to duck when I say it, but I think we should all get together on a Saturday morning when nobody's doing anything in the next couple of weeks, walk over to that piece of property and make some notes. You know what I mean?
That's fine.
See what we think. Can do
Great
it.
idea.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
Conservation Commission does it all the time, so let's do it. We just have to post it, that's all.
All right, well, let's do that.
I think that's such a great recommendation, because where I got my heart set on all this, I would walk that property quite a bit. It's lined with sugar maples and everything. And I think that's an awesome idea to actually go there and see it for something, in person. That's cool.
Bring a clipboard and a pencil and make some notes, make some.
Okay, so when let's do that. Let's try to get that. When can somebody do that? I mean, I'm assuming it would be a weekend, because obviously, I mean, many of us are working, so I can't do it otherwise.
How about Saturday before our next meeting?
Yeah, Saturday works for me, any Saturday.
So Saturday before the next meeting is what, the 2nd, the 30th, that's Halloween. I think it'd be a perfect time to go around that building. It's Halloween. Is anybody against Halloween?
No.
I
You're
am.
against-
Well,
Okay, all right, so
Well, it depends what time, but I've got my wheel
early.
on just Halloween things.
It would be early. I think we're looking at, 9:30 in the morning or something. And I guess it wouldn't, I don't know.
maybe 10.
Wow. This is what retirement has done to you?
Okay, no, I think it's
Indeed.
appropriate. It's a terribly creepy building. Let's meet on Halloween.
So are you significantly saying 10, Jim? Or are you jokingly saying 10?
No, I'm significantly saying, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I would
whatever.
prefer earlier.
How about 9:30? And
That's a
we'll
good-
just say it'll go to about 11-ish, an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Is
We
everybody
just
okay with
trunk or
that?
treat and all those things. So if people wanted to come to our open meeting, what else is there stuff going on that day? I'm not doing the trunk or
Not
treat.
that time. I think there's breakfast at Whalen Kitchen at that time. That's the only thing that's open in town. Maybe Dippin' Donuts.
Hmm.
All right, so let's do that. So that's 10:31, 9:30 a.m. Madam Town Manager, can you have Elaine post this, please?
Yes.
And we'll meet at the front, in the parking lot in front of the school.
And you said you're inviting the other boards.
Well, I think Jim wanted to have, Mr. Marino wanted to have us walk around. This is a separate meeting. I mean, they can come and I don't know. How does anybody feel about that? I'm a little bit concerned that if we have a joint meeting and we're walking around, we're not going to get the best of either of the two worlds. So I'd rather do a meeting just us.
Yeah.
I
And
look
then
at it as a selectmen's meeting so we can collect thoughts that we want to present to other groups.
that's what I would say. So let's do it just us.
And then invite,
And then in December, we can try to have a meeting either in early December or after the new year, to try to have a meeting with APDC, basically a multi-board. We'll look at the whole gamut of people we have to invite and do that as soon as possible. But this meeting, this onsite will give us ability to each of us form an opinion about what we may like to see that. Then we can, the five of us can discuss it at another selectman meeting to come up with a list of criteria to let somebody with a landscape imagination, come up with some ideas for us. Does that seem like a good series of things?
Mhm. Yes, I think so. Gets us started. It gives
Yeah.
us some.
Well, I mean, we did, just to be fair, we did start and we did come to a conclusion with the Board of Selectmen, which hadn't really happened in a long time. I think we have a unanimous idea of the board about what we want to have done with the building that's there. Now, the vision of what we want after that, I think, is probably a little more flexible, but I think it's probably easier to get to consensus with, because once the building is down, I don't think anybody's looking to build another building there. So I think we're just worried, we're just going to be maybe discussing what kind of open space and how it's configured. So we have done stuff in the past, and we actually, although we didn't fully complete the goal, because my goal was last time was to get a special town meeting, an annual town meeting warrant article, like I just stated. That's the real goal, because if we get to the point where we have money, we can hire somebody, we can get real plans in front of people and like get them done.
Yeah.
Ms. Adams.
I just wanted to thank, I always want to say the chief, but maybe it's just a nickname now,
He's always the chief.
for the idea of meeting, because that's really where, when I first got into, the idea of municipal land preservation and my Article 11 way back and all these things. And like I said, I had walked that site several times. So I went to kindergarten there and we played in the grounds. And there were these maple trees, which I had just mentioned, but their root structures they're historic maple trees. And we used to play amongst the roots. And one time I walked back into the brush and then there it was, it was all, covered up. And so there's these really nice elements in that parcel of land. And I've gone back there several times, different seasons. And there was a playground with like a clown, that's gone. The DPW cleaned up some stuff behind the school, and it's really a beautiful piece of land in town center. And so like I always imagine these like band concerts and like food truck events in this big parking lot. And I think the problem is I broken record talk about it. I think I see something really magical, and it's like taking that triangle gazebo and expanding it into a much better community meeting space. So being able to go there, get the wheels turning, and then hopefully find somebody who can put a vision on paper, we could really be transforming the center of town, not just physically, but in like a social emotional way, having a better place to gather. So anyways, I'm excited.
Madam Town Manager, in preparation of that meeting, can you have each of us, can you have somehow get the plot lines of what that piece of property is on a 8.5 by 11 sheet? So we can jot notes to ourselves and locations of things, so we can get a good sense of the size and scope of the property. Because clearly when you look at it now, it's not easy to know where the bounds are, and it would be good to know that as a reference going there that day.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, we can take some photos too while we're there.
You raise your hand again, or did I miss you last time?
I did, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Exciting workshop for me. So for example, one thing that somebody had mentioned when we started talking about this years ago is there's some natural hilliness to the grading of the land. And somebody had brought up, and I can't remember who, it like in the bottom corner, if you had the bandstand, some parks and places use and leave a grading to create like an amphitheater where people can set up. And so like the bottom corner was talked about as potential. We used to have this bandstand behind the old high school where we used to do our bonfires and stuff. So you have this bandstand type thing. And, you know, sometimes people talk about putting a gazebo. I would never move the gazebo or change the little park we have where we have it. I mean, that just is a park, you know, and I think, you know, some type of bandstand or something, and the land isn't perfect and it isn't flat, but that might be part of the way we use it.
Okay. Yeah, I think there'll be plenty to discuss. All right. So I think we have that. So we'll have this meeting set. Right after that, we'll try to set the meeting with the other committees and commissions. And then hopefully those two things will have parallel tracks to get to the next step, which is getting conceptual drawings at the end of that. So if we can get conceptual drawings by the end of January or February, we should be able to be in good spot to put a warrant article on the annual town meeting and have something to discuss to show people what we are looking for money to do. So, all right. Any other word on this item?
No, just thank you for talking about it.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so next meetings, we have no meeting next week. Our next meeting is the big drum roll election day of November 3rd. So don't tune in if you haven't voted. Go vote first, then tune in. But you have between now and then to vote. And then we have a meeting on the 3rd and the 10th. And of course, our third meeting of the month will be the special town meeting. So any public comment from the public this evening? Mr. Passios. What? You're not on.
Okay, sorry about that. I shut everything off earlier. Okay. I lost audio during some of your comments about the streetlight articles, so I'm going to wait till probably the Finance Committee meeting to make any further comment on your discussions this evening. As you, I believe, all know, I am a staunch supporter of this article, and I invite you to the Finance Committee meeting on the 29th of October. I was tasked to invite Mr. Blatt to that meeting to discuss the article at length with us on the Finance Committee while we deliberate support or non-support for the article. So he will be there that evening. And that's it for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any public comment from the board before we go? We have executive session. Ms. Adams.
I can read the open meeting, bring everyone on the same page as my board comment. I just have to exit full screen and open it up here. So yep, I did file the open meeting law complaint I talked about at the last meeting. The warrant article involving 2 parcels of land was created in the absence of an agenda. The open meeting law complaint, the description of alleged violation. On 9/23/2020, I attended a Zoom meeting of the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. There were several items on the agenda that were relevant to my role as a member of the Lunenburg Select Board, yet I was technically attending the meeting as a citizen. At approximately 2 hours and 4 minutes into the meeting, a topic that was not on the agenda started to be discussed. The conservation agent said that he was advised by our town manager to create any necessary warrant articles before the warrant closed. The commission then began discussion on creating an article to transfer 2 parcels of land that are in the care, custody, and control of the select board to the Conservation Commission. The 2 parcels were 111 Mulpus Rear and 970 Northwest Townsend Road Rear. The commission proceeded to vote on the creation of such article. The transfer of land had not been previously discussed by or presented to the select board at an open meeting. To quote the law regarding an agenda, the list of topics must be sufficiently specific to reasonably inform the public of the issues to be discussed at the meeting. The creation of a warrant article to transfer ownership of land should be a topic that is properly disclosed on an agenda. Topics of this nature should not be handled behind the scenes where citizens and public officials are unaware of the actions being taken by other boards or by town employees. I consider myself to be a well-informed citizen of the town of Lunenburg. I also hope to be a well-informed member of the select board. I value the open meeting law and its purpose. Without responsible and legal communication, especially regarding topics such as land transfers, I have no other feeling than one of extreme disappointment. On 9/23/2020, I public commented regarding my open meeting law concerns at the end of the Conservation Commission meeting. I also presented my concerns at 2 of my own select board meetings regarding the creation of the warrant article. My disappointment grew as my concerns for following the open meeting law were systemically ignored, and thus my formal complaint. In summary, the 9/23/2020 agenda was not reasonably specific enough to take such actions as warrant article creation. The agenda said warrant articles and did have one specific itemized topic for a discussion of a different property. I do not believe that it was legal to make an article for 111 Mulpus Rear and 970 Northwest Townsend Road Rear without informing the public first. The desired action you have to list on the form. The desired action would be for the Conservation Commission to recognize this event as a violation of open meeting law. I would like to ensure that in the future, the Conservation Commission understands and uses a proper agenda. So that's just reading the form that I submitted. And like I had said, I really believe in the open meeting law, and just to sort of support my firm belief that it was violated and that I attempted to draw light to it, I filed. And you know, the actual article makes sense to me. I'm not against the article, but whether it's that article or anything else, I just think it should go through the process of being on an agenda so all citizens can feel informed. In this case, it was just a true violation, and I tried 3 or 4 times to bring it up amongst ourselves, and that frustration is what led to me filing.
Mr. Jeffries.
Yes. So I have a public comment tonight. I don't usually make too many. You know, life is short and time is precious, and I think that we waste too much of it, hearing the same things repetitiously, week after week. You know, I understand that an open meeting law violation was filed, and I think it's rather offensive to this board and this body. I think it's offensive to the people on the Conservation Commission for one member to feel so self-empowered. Certainly, there's legal rights I'm not denying that there's a legal right here that someone can file whatever they want to file. But I think that as professional courtesy, you know, when we're talking about warrant articles that an open space committee discussed, conservation committee discussed, this board discussed on multiple occasions, and that comes before the town to vote on. I mean, that's what the real kicker here is. The town still has to vote on this, and they can amend things on the floor if necessary, and to waste all this time, our time, each other's time, you know, the Attorney General's time, you know,
That's what they're there for. This is a
Don't interrupt, because I didn't interrupt you. So I think it's just ridiculous to me that we go through this, that this is constant, repetitious. You know, I look forward to being able to serve on this board in a more professional capacity with my peers, who also have equal respect for the work lives we all have, the lives we maintain, and the fact that we're all coming here to do the best job we all can possibly do, and that no one person more than anyone else, you know, gets to be more self-righteous or gets to hold the key to righteousness.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, but I am being insulted. This is not a public comment. This is a public attack. I have a right to file an open meeting law, and I think you should support that and end the attack on me. I'm not being self-righteous. I'm just following my rights as a citizen to file a complaint. And I deserve to do so without being attacked, especially considering I may be correct.
I think that's a characterization that he is open to make. I mean, I don't think that was an attack, except as a characterization of the act. I will say that I find it ironic, and I wish it was ironic in a good way, but I find it ironic that earlier in this meeting, when I brought up this, I was told by the complainant that we couldn't discuss this because it was not on the agenda, and yet here we are at the end of the meeting discussing this in public comment, as if where this gets discussed matters.
It does.
No, it doesn't actually. It doesn't make any logical sense that you could discuss anything you want in public comment. All right. But that being said, I will say that I think that the intent of the complaint is not going to have the result that you may want, because the creation of the warrant has nothing to do, boards do not, there's no process that says an open meeting vote is how you submit warrants. We have people submitting warrant articles for our review and our consideration in many different ways. A person, a citizen, could come to the board and say, I would love you to consider this. And instead of me going and getting the requisite signatures, will you consider as a board putting this on? And that's happened in the past. That has actually been a path. So even if the conservation chair or the conservation agent came to us outside of any vote and said, the board is going to vote on this, we want to put this on the article, that would be a legitimate way to get a warrant article. That there is nothing wrong with that happening. It does not require a vote of that board, body, or commission to get something on the warrant. And that's what I tried to explain last week. So your request that this may be a violation technically may be right. The remedy to that is the AG may say you have to re-vote this, but the commission has already done that. They saw that there was an ambiguity. They didn't admit that it was a violation, but they said, you know what, we'll put it on our next meeting. And then they voted it then. That does not invalidate the warrant article submission. That was my suggestion. Now, I don't think, even if the AG rules that this is a violation, two things would be true. They would have already remedied it, and it's not going to take it off the warrant article. That's my point.
They remedied it after the warrant had closed, and I think you missed the whole thing. I made a board comment, and
Okay.
I'm allowed to do that.
And I made a rebuttal comment, which I'm also allowed to do. All right, we have a executive session now. So I would entertain a motion that we go into executive session, which is a separate Zoom meeting, not to return to any public session. And the motion is to enter into executive session and to adjourn from executive session directly pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21, Paragraph 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares, we will be discussing the municipal employees contract and the fire union's contract. So I have somebody entering that motion, please.
I move that we go into executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And roll call vote, Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
and an aye for me. So we are now out of public session, going into executive session. One quick announcement before we go, and that is that we do not have a meeting next week. The following Saturday is Halloween. There are rules. The Halloween has certain hours that the Board of Selectmen has agreed upon. We ask everybody to adhere to the guidelines. Make sure that you take care of distancing and wearing masks. Do not go to houses that are not participating. Please respect each other's right to either participate in trick-or-treating as a costumed person or a person giving out something. Observe those that carefully and respectfully that don't want to participate, and let's have a fun and safe Halloween event on Saturday, October 31st. And with that, we will go into executive session. I wish everybody good night. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.